Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi, I am Devin Singh Rawat. I am a tech enthusiast with working experience on various technologies, various domains, and I'm working on various domains for the last 18 years now. All right. So these days, my interest area is working on distributed systems and DevOps. And today, we are going to cover Git and Visual Studio Code, right? So how Git uh, can be used from within Visual Studio Code, and how we can get the maximum benefit of using Git from within Visual Studio Code, right? And which makes life of a developer easy, basically, right? You developer will not have to go out of the IDE just to pull the code or push the code, commit the code, and all. Everything can be done from Visual Studio Code. This is what we are going to cover. Let me quickly share my screen, and then I'll quickly go through a couple of slides, not many, all right, to set up the context today. Okay, so that's about me. I'll quickly skip it, right? Okay, so today's agenda in next 1 hour or probably 45-50 minutes, I'll try to cover Git and Visual Studio Code. So little primer, right? So that all of our understanding for joining the session, right, be same before we start with the Visual Studio Code and Git, right? So I'll be talking about Git, what all of generic commands which a developer generally use, right? Then I'll be showing you about Visual Studio, showing you Visual Studio Code, how Git uh, can be used from Visual Studio Code. Little bit before I jump into walkthrough of some of a small exercise where we'll be cloning a repository, creating a branch, right, to understand how a developer can use Visual Studio Git from within Visual Studio Code to clone, to create a branch, and then we'll continue with the making some changes in the file. We'll stage it, commit it, and push it, right? So, and we are very soon going to discuss these terminologies which I'm talking about. If you are, little bit confused about it, but if you want to go through the details of Git deep dive, then the link is on the screen. You can definitely go through it. The deep dive where you'll understand how overall Git works, right? And I'll keep on checking my screen for your queries. So feel free to put your questions wherever there are any, and I'll be happy to answer wherever possible. Yeah? Okay. So what is Git basically, right? Let's start with the common understanding of Git first, right? It's a source code repository, or not exactly a repository, right? So excuse me for my terminology, right? So it's a version control system basically, right? And it is most commonly used version control system these days, where we can track our changes. So just like any other version control system, it helps us to track the changes which generally a developer makes in their code files, right? It could be any other file, but generally most of the time it's code files, right? Not documents and all. So that's where Git helps us. And it started getting popularity, especially because it allows a lot of different developers to work on same file at the same time, and they can merge their code later on, right? So that's the ease which Git brought, right? And that's where people started liking it, right? So how it is different from the earlier source control systems? It's distributed source control system where you have a repository, which is the real source of truth, or you can say the golden data, right? Where all of your code lies, all of your team's code lies on a server, and you have a local repository, right? So when any developer have to work on the code, that developer have to clone that code from the remote repository to the local repository. Local repository is nothing but a repository which will be on the developer's machine, right? Once that code is cloned, then developer can work on it, and developer can work on that code in an offline mode also, right? So they don't have to talk to server every time they are working on their local environment. And there could be multiple developers who can work on the same file, as I mentioned, right? So when they are done, they will push their changes to the server, and at that time, Git will try to merge that code and make it easy for everyone, right? So that's where people started liking it. It was a great feature in Git, which helped everyone to adopt Git as much as possible. Okay, so now I'll quickly go through few terminologies. Basic things like, as I mentioned, remote repository, that will be our server, right, where our remote repository will be lying. Client, I'll call developer's machine probably, where our local repository will be, right? So now coming to the terminologies from the Git perspective, right? So these are few basic terminology which a developer should be aware of when they work with Git and day-to-day work, right? So I'll start with the fork part, and it's especially for in GitHub, right? This functionality where most of the people generally get confused with Git and GitHub also, right? GitHub is just a public cloud where based on Git, right, where people can host their open source code, right? Their public repository, private repository, right? And can collaborate together to work on certain area, right, based on their interest area. So here, what happens on GitHub side, right? So this fork terminology, when someone want to work on certain code, right? So there is a repository which is owned by person one, and person two want to collaborate on that, right? For example, let's say PowerShell repository, right? And you want to collaborate there and write some new commandlets into it, or any other repository, right, which is open source. So generally, you will not have a write access, commit access, right, on that repository without knowing whether you have done a right job or not, you have resolved issue properly or not, right, and what kind of work you're doing and all. Without approving those changes, no one will allow you to have a right access on that repository. So that's where fork comes into picture, where if you have to work on such repository, you want to collaborate on a public repository, you will fork the code, right? So if you see, let me, yeah. Okay, so if you see, this is a repository on GitHub owned by Microsoft, and this is one project there, right? So and we'll be working in a lab very soon where we'll be doing same thing, right? So on this project, we want to collaborate, right? We want to make some changes and submit it. So before I start working on this project, by directly cloning, what I will do is I will fork this project into my organization, right, which is a user organization, like let's say my personal organization, where I'll be forking this code, which will copy the code from this original repository to the my organization repository, right? This is what we call as forking a code, right? So it's shown here in a bigger picture, right? So from copying from server to server, but from the original repository to certain users repository who want to collaborate, right? This is what is fork. Now, once this is done, a user moves ahead. So this is something which will be done from GitHub directly, right? This is not something which a developer have to do again and again. So first time developer will do a forking, developer will fork the code, start working on it, and after that, developer will just commit or submit pull requests and all, right? But yeah, without going into much detail. So once code is forked, after that, developer who want to collaborate will clone the code from server. So this gray box is a server where our code lies, from the server on the local machine. So here a local repository will be created for a developer, and this is what we call cloning the code, right? So we are cloning code from server on the local repository. So all the branches and main branches, right, all those details will be cloned on the developer machine. After that, developer can, so here, as I mentioned, I'll be using only few slides, so I'll go back quickly. After this, we can probably jump into the exercise. So once code is cloned, right, then developer can go offline and start making changes on the local repository, right? Developer don't need to be connected to the server forever, right? And developer will generally work on a branch. Developer will create a feature branch, right, or an issue branch, where developer will resolve some issue or develop some feature and commit that change, right? So that's where we say that developer will commit the change, and that change will be committed only on developer's machine, on the local repository, not on the server, right? and I'll come to stage very soon, right? So that is a commit part, and after that, once developer is happy with the commit and sure that want to push this code so that overall whole team can share the changes which are made by developer, then developer will push that code from local repository to the remote repository, which is this repository in this case, right? So from this part, I'll just so here we'll just talk about this area most of the time, right? Because generally in organization, if they are not using GitHub, they have their own private Git repository there. They will not follow the fork principle, right? So they will just follow this remote repository, local repository, where developers will be pulling code and committing their changes. Okay, so this is push. And similarly, as a lot of developers are working on this repository, a lot of developers will be pushing their code. As a developer, I always want those changes to be pulled into my repository, local repository. I want it to be the latest on my local machine, right? So that's where I will be pulling my code as a developer on my local repository whenever required. It's not necessary that I have to do it every time, but it's a good practice, right? That local repository remains latest most of the time, right? So general practice is people follow that every day they will pull the code changes from server right before they start working on their changes which they want to commit. So this is about commit, push, and pull. Another terminology is stage, right? So before I do a commit of my code, right, I will want to stage the changes which I want to commit. So when I am working on certain feature, certain issue, there will be multiple files which might get updated, right, during my changes and all. But out of all those files, probably I just want to commit 4 or 5 files, right? So I don't want to commit each and everything because those 4 or 5 changes in those 4 or 5 files are relevant, right? So I want to group them and commit them together, right? It's not a good practice that I commit each file separately. Otherwise, I'll lose the track and I'll lose the benefit of Git overall, right? So it won't be easy to understand all those commits separately. So that's where I want to group those files out of multiple files which I've changed on my local machine. I will stage it right on my local machine, and before doing a commit, once I'm sure that I'm ready, I want to commit that change, then I'll commit that group of files all together, right? So that's where stage helps us. So this is about the basic terminologies of Git basics, right? Before I move ahead, let me quickly see if there is any query there. Okay, so I'll move ahead. Now, I'll quickly jump to Visual Studio Code. So this is my Visual Studio Code. I have kept it open on my machine. You can install it. There are installation details available in the lab links which are shared there, right? So you can install Visual Studio Code and Git on your machine, right? So once it is installed, I've kept it open. On the left, you will see this icon which says source control. Okay. So this is the icon. This is where it will help us to get the code. We'll see it in the lab, but this is where it is going to help us to clone our repository and work on it, right? And at the bottom here, we'll see all the changes which we'll make. So whenever we create a branch or we have to pull a code or push code, whatever status we want to see of the changes which we are making as a developer on our machine, those can be noticed here. This is what we are going to see. So this comes by default with the Visual Studio Code. Again, Visual Studio Code is a lightweight editor, and I hope most of you must be aware of it and using Visual Studio Code for your development, right? Even if you are not using at least this concept, how to use Git from within Visual Studio Code, it's easy to understand here, not very complex stuff. Okay. So now let me start with the exercise here. And I'll open my Git account, GitHub account here. Okay. So this is the code. Again, this repo is mentioned in the lab. This link is shared on your screen, right? So if you go into that lab step by step, you will reach to a page where these details are mentioned, right? I'll quickly show it here. I've kept it open on my machine just to show it to you. Okay, so here is a link, MS Learn, use Git from Visual Studio Code, right? So this is what I have opened. Okay, right. So as I mentioned, first thing, if I have to contribute on this repository is I have to fork this code, right? So I have already logged into my Git account, right? You can see it here. And let me right click, open link in new tab just to show that kind of repositories I am having. So these are the repositories which I am having. Okay, I think I cloned it while doing a lab practice for you guys. So let me quickly delete it just to avoid any confusion. Okay, so hope it's gone. Yeah, it's all gone, right? So I'll come here. So now what I'm going to do is fork the code, and notice this organization mentioned here, which is Microsoft Doc. Within that, this is the repository, right? So I will fork it. Once I do it, now this code is getting copied on within my organization in my repository list, right? So this repository is created here for me now, right? And it's, so let me quickly refresh this list of repositories. Okay, probably it will take some time here, or yeah, here it is. Okay, no, very fine, that's fine. I think in listing it is not coming quickly, but we can clearly say that it's within my organization now, that this repository is there, right? So now I have forked the code and I want to clone it on my machine, and that's where we are going to do it directly from Visual Studio Code. So I'll copy the URL which I want to clone on my local machine, and I want to create a local repo here, right? So here I'll come. One option you can see here, source control. If I click on it, clone repository. If I click on it, it will open this option from where I can start. There are multiple options which you can use as you get comfortable started using it, right? And another option is using the command palette. Here you will get a lot of options. Git clone, this is what I want to do, so this is what I'll select, right? So Control Shift P is the shortcut for it. So I did that. I said that okay, I want to clone my code, and I want to clone it from GitHub, right? I might want to clone it from my organization's Git or from GitHub, right? Which is fine. I'll put a URL here and clone from this. I'll enter. It is asking me the location where I want to clone it. I'm just putting that location. Reacto, and I just created one folder, kept it ready, empty folder, right? So this is a folder where I'm planning to clone this code. So this folder is empty right now. I said that clone this code into this folder, right? And let me get this folder here. So this is the folder which is getting created right now, right? I will move it out, which is fine. I just wanted to show you. Okay, as soon as my code gets cloned, now it is there's a local repository where all this lies, right? So it is Visual Studio Code is suggesting me, do I want to open the repository which is cloned, right? So definitely I would want to do this. I'll click on open, and this is the code which got opened, right? We don't need to worry about the code, what is this code and all, because that is not the point which we are going to discuss. We are just going to see that how this code will be checked in, outpulled, and all can be worked with Git commands within Visual Studio Code, right? So just a code, and let me load it. So this code is loaded, right? So now notice that earlier when I was showing you Visual Studio Code, there this icon was not there where it is trying to connect to my repository and trying to get the status of my repository, right? So we'll see there's some changes happening here as we move ahead. But look at the bottom, right? And you can ignore these pop-ups which are coming here. These are just about Visual Studio Code looking into the code and suggesting some actions. So that can be ignored. Okay, so coming back here. So now here is the status. So this code is open here, and the branch which is open right now is the master branch, right? So this is a master branch. Next thing which we see here is synchronize changes, right? This is what it is talking about at the bottom. Hope you can see my mouse icon at the bottom of Visual Studio Code, the status bar. Here, first thing we see the branch which is opened up right now, and another icon is synchronize changes, right? So let's say after a couple of days, today I cloned my code, and for a couple of days I have not worked, or suppose I'm working, I want to synchronize my changes. I want to push the changes which I have made. I want to pull whatever is there in the servers. I'll click on it, and it will do both the things: push my changes and pull the changes which are there on the server. Right? So it will do it automatically. Now I don't need to run any command from command prompt. In case sometime if you want to run some command, you can always use this terminal, this window, where you can write your Git commands to ensure whether whatever you are looking at on your screen is same as there in the Git, right? So it's all up to you. So, but within this terminal, you can always write it. Here also, you can see that within this branch, within this folder, master branch is open, which is the status which is showing, right? And we can see it with Git status also. So again, not about going into it, right? So, but if I want to say it, so I can see that on branch master, your branch is up to date with origin master. This is what it is showing, right? And here now, if you see that we are saying your branch is up to date with origin master, right? How is this information which will be shown here, right? So we'll see by making some changes that how my Git client, which is embedded within my Visual Studio Code, will check out whether my branch change is up to date or not, right? So first, let's look at how to create the branch, right? So as I mentioned, first we forked the code. Second, we cloned it. And now if I have to work on the changes, definitely I don't want to make those changes on the master branch. So what is the easy way of creating branch from Visual Studio Code? So click on this at the bottom where it is showing master. Click on it, right? And it will give you option, create new branch from, if you want to create a branch from some other branch, not from master, right? And so on. So we'll go to create new branch and want to give a name like, let's say, feature demo. You will see a new branch is created on my local environment, right? So let me quickly come back. Here, right now, it's just master branch. I'm just showing it to you because we'll come back to here to see when this branch will be pushed on my server, right? So right now, there is no other branch. It's just a master branch. So right now, this branch is created on my local repository. If you're aware of how Git works, right? And it is showing me that this repository can be published, right? So with this, I will understand that, okay, whatever changes are there, these are not published on my server. So others in my team cannot see this branch. I'm working on it, right? So that's how I will look at the status here. Okay, so now I will make a small change. Let's say I make a change in the README, updated it for demo, right? A simple change. I definitely don't want to go into code right now. right? Just to avoid any confusion, but it's change which is made in the file, right? So now notice, as soon as I made the changes, I can see a M icon in front of my file, which is there. Along with that, I can see a one number mentioned here, which is showing that there is one file which got changed, right? So if I click on this, it will tell me which is that file. So similarly, whatever files I'll update, it will start showing me that, okay, these are the files which got updated, right? So along with that, in my branch, you will see there is a small asterisk sign here, right at the top, which is showing that, okay, there is some change which I really want to commit, right? So this is one change. Let's quickly make one small change, one other change to see how it shows. So let's route, and this is mentioned, and as demo. I made a small change in this file. Again, notice it is processing, right? Trying to do some process, and now it is showing two files. At the same time, if I see it in this Explorer, I can see that index.js file is modified, okay, within this folder, right? The changes here won't be much because it is just signifying there is some change which needs to push. Now, once I'm done with a lot of changes here, I can always come back and see that, okay, what all files got changed, right? As I mentioned, I'm clicking on this part. So here, after looking at it, if I feel that, okay, these the changes which I made are part of different different purpose, probably, right? And I want to track them differently because the one is documentation related, another is code related changes. So I can select one file and say that, okay, I want to stage these changes. Okay, if you see, this is a plus icon here, positive sign in front of index.js as well as readme.md. So I'll click on it. And if you see, my change is staged, right? As I mentioned, right? We always want to stage the files before we want to commit, right? Most of people, you will see that they will commit directly also, depending on how they are using the system. But it's a good practice to stage those changes so that you can review if you are making big changes in a lot of files, right? So stage those changes, review it that, okay, these are the files which you want to commit as one set, and then do a commit, right? So as soon as I staged it, you will notice there is one plus sign, positive sign in front of the file, which is signifying that, okay, there is some change ready. So earlier it was showing star sign, which is showing that, okay, there is some change. Now it is showing plus sign, which is mentioning that, okay, you have something which you want to commit, right? So I'll come here, and for now, okay, close this, and let me unstage it. Let's say this is the change which I staged by mistake. I want to unstage it. So again, there is one minus sign shown here, which can be used to unstage the changes, right? And notice the changes at the bottom. Right? As soon as I unstaged the change which I made, my icon, plus icon from this branch in front of this branch, that also got removed, right? So this is where I can see the status of all my changes which I'm making. I can look at the files which are getting updated, right? And I can select the files which I want to stage and I want to unstage, right? So I will quickly, let me see if there is something which I want to cover, and probably if I missed, and at the same time I'll check if there is any other question. Yeah. Okay, no comment, no question so far. Pretty fine, right? So this is where we made changes. We are good, and I'm ignoring these errors and all. You can also for this session. Okay. So now what we are going to do is commit our changes, right, and see that how we can make the changes. Give me a second. Yeah, how I can stage, commit, and push the changes in the remote repository. We'll notice that how that change reached to my server. Okay, and before that, I'll just want to show it quickly that there are a few other good extensions like GitHub extension which you can install. right? Which also give you some more functionalities, right? So it will show you local pull requests, branches, waiting for my review, all the stuff, which is a pretty cool feature, right? This is additional. Sorry, sorry for that. So this is the extension which you can install, right? And you can enhance the features which are available on Visual Studio Code, right? As you know that in Visual Studio Code you can install a lot of extensions to get a lot of other benefits. So just want to highlight this. This is a GitHub extension. Let me show it to you. It should be named GitHub. Yeah, GitHub pull requests and issues. Okay, this is what I have installed, and that's where I'm seeing this. It will show me all the pull requests and all the issues, right, which are assigned to me and all. We'll not go into much detail. I just want to show that these are some additional things, right? So as a developer, sometimes you play a role of reviewer also, right? Where within your team someone said raise some pull request which you want to review, right? And or if there is some issue which is assigned to you, so without going into a web interface or some other interface, right? You can again check this thing time to time from within Visual Studio Code, right? So that's again a cool feature here. Okay, so coming back to our changes. So we looked at these branches, how to create a branch. We can create multiple branches, right? And how to make the changes and how to observe the changes which are made and how to stage it, right? So let's quickly do a simple stage. As I mentioned, right? Let's say we say that, okay, both these changes are relevant, both are required for a demo, which we are doing right now. So I made both the changes, right? And now when I want to commit, this is the icon which I'll be using from where I can commit my changes directly, right? And then we'll notice the changes which will be shown here in the form of icon, right? So it will start showing me that, okay, there are something which we want to push on the server. We'll quickly see how it looks like. So I'll put a comment, demo changes, and I will say commit. Right, see the changes which are happening here. Okay, so now I have committed these changes on my local machine, right? Let me quickly go back to my server again and refresh it. So far, nothing which reached to my server. Okay, so I made the changes. This branch is on my local, right? The changes which I made, the commits which I have done, those are on my local, and see the change in the icon which it is showing, right? So it is saying that, okay, you have a new branch, right? You might have some changes which you want to push, right? So it will not tell me pull and push right now because this branch is not there on server. So I cannot pull anything right now. So let me quickly push it on the server. Once I push it, right? So now, because I use the feature of forking our code from one repository to another, right? I'm getting these two options. If you are using it of your organization, right? It's not GitHub and you have not forked the code, you will not get these two options. You will just get the first option, right? So we'll continue with the first option. I don't want to push anything on the original code from where I forked my code. So I'll click origin, right? See the changes which is getting pushed, right? And the progress which are shown here. A small blue line which is moving from left to right, right? Very soon it will push the code. Let me close this. Okay, now it is suggesting me something. Do I want to create pull request, right? I'll not go into this detail because this is not what we are planning to discuss today, right? But you can create a pull request directly from here also, right? You don't need to, as I mentioned, you don't need to go into web repository again just to create a pull request, right? So now our code is pushed, branch is pushed, it is showing the sync icon. Let's quickly go back to our repository and see it here. So here you see, without refreshing it, this page automatically is showing this status where it is saying feature/demo has recently pushed had recent pushes less than a minute ago, right? Apologies for my misread there. Okay. So this is what it is showing. If I open the pop-up right now, it is not showing the branches there. Let me refresh. Now it will show feature/demos, right? This branch is already there. Now let me quickly simulate a scenario where, let's say, there is some change which is made by some person through their computer, right? So let's say I'm editing this file directly here, and I'm making changes on the server itself. Update it for demo 2. I will not put a lot of stuff there. Oops, am I on the right branch? Yeah, feature demo branch. Commit changes. Okay, right? So let's assume there is some other developer within our organization who is working on the same file, made the changes. Right now, if I go here and I say refresh, right? So as soon as I click the refresh, what it did is that it checked with the server what are the changes on the server side, what are the changes on the local repository, and accordingly now it's showing the icons at the bottom, right? So it is showing me on this branch, we might want to synchronize the changes, and there is one change with the down arrow, right? I'm not sure whether it is very clear to you. Let me see if I can zoom it. I doubt I can do it, right? But at the bottom, it is showing that synchronization might be required, and it is telling me that there is one change on the server side which I might want to pull, right? And that's where is the down arrow, which is signifying that I might want to pull it, right? And it is showing that there is no change on my side which I want to push, right? Let me quickly make a change just to see again here. Second change, I'm just putting this second change. Right, so far nothing here. Star icon came because it is telling me that okay, there is some change which is made. Probably I want to push it, so I staged it now the plus icon as we covered, and now I am I'm committing my second change, right? And ideally, you should be putting some good comment while when you make it commit. For the demo purpose, I'm just putting these random comments there. Okay, let me commit it, and then we'll see how the status changes at the bottom, right? So right now it is showing one change which I want to pull, another change, and now, yeah. So I have committed on my local repository. See the change synchronization status which it is showing, right? Again, the status part, right? Which a developer generally want to know that okay, I refreshed my repository today morning, and then I want to see that okay, how many changes are there on the server side which I want to pull. Probably there are zero, or probably there are many which I want to synchronize right now before I start on any complex tasks, right? So that's where I look as a developer. I look at this status. I will see okay, one change which I want to pull, one change which I want to push. Good time push, and I will click on it. Right. As soon as I click on it, it will try to. Okay, it is showing there are merge conflicts. Resolve them before committing. Okay, that's pretty cool. So why merge conflicts? So this is also something which we can. Also, I was not intending to do it in the demo, but yeah, that's a good thing which happened. So again, for this, we don't need to into featured demo merge branch feature, right? So here, yeah, when I click on this, I got the merging conflict, and it is showing me where is this conflict, right? Exclamation mark comes here. It shows me that this is a conflict. What is it which you want to accept, right? You can make those changes here, and you can push those again, right? Let's say I say that okay, the change is made by my friend on repo. This is right, and this is how I want to merge it. Okay. Or you're not concluded your merge, shared exists, open, git log, show command out. Okay. Okay, pretty fine. So there are a few things which I might have to do here, right? So I was not intending to show the merge conflict. Don't want to confuse it here, but if you want to do some more analysis, definitely you can do it again, as I mentioned on the terminal side, right? So for now, you can avoid this merge conflict part, but yeah, what you can notice here is that it specifies if there is any conflict, right? It will show the icon to resolve the conflict. You can make those changes and commit it again, right? So coming back to it, okay, at the same time, that's good part which we can see. So let me unstage this. I noticed the change, and there's another icon which says discard the changes, and I can discard the changes also, right? So all these things can be done directly, right? And you can make those changes into the GitHub directly, right? So now let me quickly see if there's anything else which I want to cover, which I'm missing here. Okay, right. So yeah, I think we covered most of the things, right? Let me quickly summarize what we all covered, and then I'll check if there is any query which we can discuss here, right? So we discussed what is Git, what are the basic commands which a developer uses, what is Visual Studio Code. We looked into Visual Studio Code, how we can work with Git from within Visual Studio Code, right? We walked through simple exercise to clone a repository from my remote repository to my local, create a branch on my local machine, and then we made some changes in a couple of files, staged those changes, committed, and pushed those changes directly from Visual Studio Code, right? So, as I mentioned, this is what we are trying to discuss today, right? That all the Git functionality can be done through from Visual Studio Code. It's a tight integration which is there. It is evolving. There are continuously new features coming up, right? And with this, you don't ever need to go out of your Visual Studio Code, right? So I think with this, I'm done with my session here. Right, I'll quickly check if there is any query, and there is a link shared here of the survey. Right, please do fill the survey at the bottom of the screen. You can see the survey link and the event code there. All right, so this will be great if you can fill the survey and provide your feedback. And there is no other queries. So thanks a lot. Thank you for your time. And we can end the session now.